I had a year and 4 days when they released me.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Lyfe Choyces podcast. Let's get back into it. Let's find out what happened there that you slipped back down the slope of addiction.
So while I was away in prison, before I get those 5 years, I still, although I couldn't get high like I did when I was out, I still smoked weed, and they make jailhouse hooch, but very, I actually was dealing weed while I was upstate, and going to college at the same time. But again, it's not like outside, so you can still function.
So the addiction was still there.
Yes,
it
it
just
was.
wasn't to the point where it was an everyday, constant situation. It was more sporadic when you could get it. And
that's correct. So I got out. I have this associate degree in science. I'm in great shape. My head is, for the most part, as clear as it had been, in a long time. But I'm still smoking weed, and I'm drinking. I'm not doing any hard drugs. So I was out for 3 years. And here's the problem. I get out. I'm in great shape. I have this associate degree. I'm ready for the world. I don't know. I don't realize I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. Like, that has not sunk in. What sunk in is I wouldn't have got caught if this would have happened. See, that's the problem.
The blame game.
I've got bad luck. That's it. If I had just had enough money, this would not have happened. If the guy didn't snitch on me, if the cops didn't show up, So getting back, I get out. I have all this stuff going for me. I've got the degree. I'm in great shape. But I don't know that I have a problem.
25-ish years old, just spent 5 years in jail. You've been drinking since you were 13-ish. You've been doing drugs since you were like 15, selling, being a drug dealer at 17.
Correct.
In jail multiple times.
Right.
Come out of jail, still smoking and drinking, and yet still unaware that it was a problem within inside of you.
Correct. That's right. So I'm out for 3 years. I went in 1980. I came out in 1985. In those 3 years, I think the first 6 months I stayed away from hard stuff, and I worked, and I smoked my weed, I drank, and then, of course, that, it didn't take long. I was out from 1985 to 1988, almost 3 years to the day, and I got another charge, strong arm robbery. That means without a weapon, and I got 18 months. I got 1.5 to 3. So the way it works, the first time you get arrested for a felony, you do 1/3 of your maximum before you're eligible for parole. So the first time I went to parole at 4 years, and they hit me with 1 more year. I knew I would get out after that year. Otherwise, they would have hit me with 2, which is the most they can hit you with. But they can keep doing that forever until your max runs out.
Right.
So when they hit me with 1 year, I knew I was going to get out, and I did. I went back in 1988, and with 18, and I'll tell you, I showed up at the parole board. By now, I'm out. It's at the end of the 3 years. I can't stop, and I know I can't stop. It had me. It had me. I'm shooting dope and coke again. I'm committing crimes. It's just a matter of time until I get caught. And I walk.
And this was only 3 years out.
And I'm still on parole.
Right.
I'm on. I walk in the parole board. I had a woman parole officer. This is down on 40th Street, Manhattan. And she comes out. She goes, "Come on in, Mr. Carney." I follow her in the office. As soon as we get in her office, the door closed. 2 male parole officers throw me down on the desk, and they cuff me. They go, "Okay, we got you for a strong arm robbery. We're going to take you down."
Someone had already called in that you had done. There was proof that you had done this.
They picked me out of a line. My picture out of the book. So this is what I did. I went like this. Because I was done. I was just done.
You were happy that you were getting arrested.
I was. I won't say happy, but I was relieved.
So let me bring myself up to speed here. So you were out of jail for 3 years.
Yes.
And over the course of those 3 years, it was you hadn't stopped anything. You just got worse into the drugs.
Yes.
To the point where you started to rob again.
Yes.
People. violently to the point without a weapon that you then got arrested going into your parole.
That's not what I did all the time. I also
Okay.
was dealing again. That's what I did.
Okay.
I just, what happens is you're out there, and you have that weak moment, and so I took money off somebody, but I was dealing again to try to, and it's in the book, I'm down in Hell's Kitchen and I'm selling Coke, out of a bar. And that I would go on a binge for 3 or 4 days. But I could never, I would sell the Coke, buy more, have mine, sell the Coke. But sooner or later, I would mess it up and I'd end up with zero.
You were just continuously doing the wrong thing.
Yes, I was.
And at the same time, was there a mental aspect of like, why am I doing this? Or was it more of like getting a rush from doing it all?
I was focused, and my focus was getting that next shot of dope or Coke. That's my focus. You become very focused. Your world becomes very small. I don't have time in my mind for anyone or anything except the drug.
Here's the action I need to do in order to get the drug, in order to get high. Once that's over, I got to figure out all that again. How do I get money? How do I get things? Get the drug.
And what would happen is, at the end of those 4 days, I lived with friends. I lived with a girl that I was involved with for, most of those 3 years when I was out. And she had a regular job, and she could go out to the bar, drink, sniff some blow, and go home at 2:00 and go to sleep and get up at 6 and go to work. I mean, she would tell me, Robbie, just lay down and breathe deep. And I would tell her, you keep breathing, I'll be right back. And I'm gone. I can't stop. That's the difference. I can't stop. I used people up. I used alcohol. I used drugs. I used people. And people go. People get tired of that stuff. And you, if you're a decent person, you become so ashamed you don't want to be involved with them anymore. So at the end of the 3 years, I get rearrested and I go back. And now I get up to Ogdensburg. They send me way up, Ogdensburg, New York, near the St. Lawrence River, not far from Canada. And this guy comes into, they asked me to work in pre-release because they knew I had gotten my degree the last time I was in. And they said to me, hey, Carney, there's an opening in the pre-release office. Why don't you apply? And I thought to that'll look great at the program. So,
again, what can I do to get out?
Exactly. So now I'm working with inmates who have made the parole board. They got their date, and it's anywhere from a month to 2 before they're released. And I'm working with them, doing workshops. So this old man comes in, and this is one of the turning points in my recovery. This old man walks in and says, they sent me in here. I want to try to start an AA meeting in the prison. Can you guys, anybody here?
And you've
help
never
me?
been to one at this point.
Oh, every time I went to detox, you have to go to. They have meetings at the detox, or you got to go. You want to stay? You want to get your methadone? You got to go to the meeting. So yeah, I had been to plenty of them, but not on my own because I was
only because you had to.
Yes,
because of the situation.
So I said to the guy, he comes in, he goes, "Is anybody? You guys familiar with the 12-step program?" And I go, "Oh yeah, I'm familiar. What do I think right away?
How am I getting out?
This will look great."
Yeah.
So he goes, "Get 30 guys to sign up. I'll be back next Thursday." Comes back next week. I got the 30 guys signed up. We have a little room off the gym. They put a pot of coffee in there and some cookies, and me and 30 felons. And the old man comes in. He hands me a packet with what to read, and he says, "Okay, Rob, have a great meeting." And I go, whoa, where are you going? And his name was Mr. McLaughlin. I go, "Where are you going?" He goes, "Oh, this is your meeting. You told me you went." And I go, "Yeah, but," he goes, and he left. So I turned to the guys and I go, "Listen, fellas, we meet here 1 hour a week for 6 months and we get our certificate. You understand?" I go, "This cop, the CEO, is going to be peeking in every so often, so we got to act like we're having a meeting, okay? And this is how it goes. Someone gets up in front of the room, they speak for 15 minutes, you tell a story, and then we have a little coffee. People raise their hands, and you share, and then that's it. Can we do that? And then everybody's like, yeah, we can do that. I go, okay, who's going to share first? And, I couldn't get anybody to share.
Not one person.
Not one person. So I said, all right, I'm going to share this time. But from now on, we're taking turns. You understand? So something happened. For 15 minutes, I opened that window and I let them see me. I talked about how I ended up there and what drugs and alcohol did to me. And let me tell you, the whole room, all you could see was a bunch of bobbing heads going like this.
I mean, that's literally what I've been doing for the whole episode.
And, so we stopped, we had coffee, a few guys shared. And during that week, I would run, they had a 1/4-mile track, and I'd run 20 laps 3 times a week. That was part of my keeping my sanity. And at the end of the run, I would walk, about 3 laps to cool off. And each time I stopped to walk, one of the kids that were at that meeting joined me on my walk. Hey, Robbie, you got a minute? Yeah, come on, what's going on? And they started sharing stuff with me that I know they're not sharing with anyone else.
You took that first step to show the vulnerability within you, probably for the first time in your life.
Yes.
And the reaction that happened, it was the snowball
crazy.
effect.
Yes. And what happened also was, at that stage, even though we were pretty far upstate, people were still getting stuff in there, weed and stuff. Not as much as you normally would, but it was there. And I stopped. I couldn't go back to that meeting the next week and stand up there a phony, And so I stopped getting high in prison. I stopped. I was clean and sober for a year and 4 days, before I was released. I did the 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
I did summer on Rikers Island, and by the time I was in pre-release and ready to go, it was a year away from my parole date, and they let me go the first time. But I had gotten out. I had a year and 4 days when they released me. So that meeting went
about 28 years old at this time?
Yes, that's correct. So no, I'm in my 30s now.
Early 30s.
Yeah, because the 3 years I was out between. You forgot to
Right,
count
that
those.
was 28.
Right,
Went in for
a year
18
and a half,
months.
29 and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm out. I'm around 30 years old.
So you got sober in jail because you took the opportunity to become vulnerable in front of other inmates to help create an AA meeting once a month for 6 months.
Once a week
for 6 months. And you got yourself sober. You started running, getting physically, mentally healthy. But you still have 5 more years.
No. Oh, yes, correct.
You still have 5 more years of addiction.
Not 5 more years, no.
Okay.
I got sober April 4th of 1992.
Okay.
Okay, so...
So almost 3 more years.
Yeah, almost 3 more years, yeah.
So you're sober, you're out of jail now.
Right.
You got paroled again.
Right.
You're set out into the world again.
Right.
On parole still, because obviously you have to check in and do drug tests and stuff like that. Where do we go from there?
So I get out, and in my head, now I've got a year and 4 days. I'm taking the bus from Ogdensburg Correctional Facility to Port Authority, which is about, 7-hour ride. It's way up there. It's way up there. And in maybe 5-6 hours. In that time, I know when I get there, I'm going to my little sister's house because I have nowhere else to go. I'm going to stay on her couch. I'm paroled there until I get on my feet. I have a plan. The plan is, as soon as I get there, go to a meeting, raise my hand, tell them I just got out, get a sponsor, do this. I had this whole plan in my head. That 5-hour, 6-hour ride from Ogdensburg to Port Authority, something changed. I'm thinking, I just did 18 months. My sister and her boyfriend, they smoke weed. I don't want to seem weird. Maybe I'll just smoke a joint. I mean, I just did 18 months. So this is the problem. Alone with myself and my ideas in this head, this is my enemy. The enemy lives in here. So I decide to just smoke a joint with them. So now I get home, I get to the house, and I smoke a joint with them. And I go to a meeting that night. And people are asking me, so how much clean time do you have, sober time? And I'm like, well, I'm not really sure with the prison thing. So I'm now going to meetings, but at the end of the night, I smoke a joint. And then I move out, I get a job, and I get my own I get a furnished room in Brooklyn in Bay Ridge, and I'm doing the same thing. And I'm going to meetings, but I'm smoking a joint at night. I can't go to that room alone and not get high for some reason. All the places I've gone to, detoxes, rehab, they all have people around, prison, jail, there's people. Now I'm by myself and I can't, so I'm smoking a joint. And of course, now this is the progression of the disease. I'm smoking a joint at night. Now I'm smoking one, after maybe around 5 o'clock, then I'm going to a meeting and I'm smoking one when I get home. Then I'm smoking one at lunchtime. Then now I'm back to the way I used to smoke. I'm smoking a joint before I brush my teeth because it's a much better experience, And what happens to a guy like me is all that weed gets me thirsty and I start drinking. So I am in and out for about 2 years, 18 months to 2 years. I'm in and out, going to meetings. And,
Okay, going to meetings. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
But at the same time, you're still doing drugs and drinking.
No, well, what would happen is this. Now I stop it all. And I would go in and I would get a month and then I'd have a slip. I would continue to relapse. So over 18-month time, I relapsed, 7 or 8 times. And so the last time I came in, it wasn't my worst time. I had an apartment. I was working for a moving company in Manhattan, in Harlem. I had a beat up car, and I talk about I went to a rehab in Massachusetts during that 18-month period from the time I got out, 18 months, 2 years. I have to figure out the time because I'm a little confused. I had a few months sober. I picked up, and my sponsor in Brooklyn said to me, listen, why don't you, I have a friend in a rehab, I can get you up there in Massachusetts. Why don't you go and do 30 days up there? And I did. I went, I talked to my parole officer. He gave me permission. I went to the rehab, and I told him I picked up. I wanted to try to help myself, and he said, go. So while at the rehab up there, and I talk about a lot of things that happened in that rehab that helped me tremendously, one is they had this thing called, it was a candlelight meeting. They sat me in the middle, and each person gets to do this. It was my turn. They sat me in the middle, made a circle around me, turned the lights out, put the candle on, and the counselor said, Robbie, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to go back to before you ever took a drink or a drug and tell me about that little kid. So I did. I closed my eyes. I told this little kid who's, shining shoes. He's taking garbage cans in. He's helping people home with their groceries from the supermarket with his mother's shopping cart, giving her half the money. I talk about this wild, adventurous little kid who's all over the place. And then she stops and brings me out of it. And she says, that's who you are. That's who you are. You're that kid. But you add alcohol and drugs to that kid, and now you have something different. So what that told me was, without alcohol and drugs, I'm a good person. Like, I'm a decent human being. They had this thing called an investment group when I first got there. I said, everybody sit around the circle. We're all going to invest one of our deepest, darkest secrets here today. All of us, we're going to put something in the middle because we need to trust each other in the 30 days that we're here. And in order to do that, let's just get the worst thing out there now. So, the counselor started because nobody would volunteer, and he talked about robbing his family of jewelry and stuff and making it look like a burglary, and then he finally told him. And then a girl talked about being, she started doing heroin and she was turning tricks, and then I was next. And I talked about being, sexually assaulted as a kid, and I never, ever told anyone about that, ever. That was coming to the grave with me. And, something happened in that rehab. I also met a girl there. And so when I got out, we were looking at each other way too long. She got out a couple of days before me, and when I got out, she was waiting for me. And so we hung out for a day, and then she invited me up to Massachusetts for Christmas. And I ended up spending, with the permission of my parole officer, 9 months up there. living at her home. Her parents had a 86-acre dairy farm. I was in this whole different world, and I talk about that in the book. It was Graham, it was Millie, BJ, and Bob, and three parole officers at one time came to that house because they were going to change my parole from New York to Springfield, Massachusetts parole. That was what they were trying to do. So they wanted to come out to see where I was living. I had to check in at Springfield Parole when I got there. So they come out, and there's the old lady Graham, and she's sitting there, knitting, and there's Bob. He's got a walker. He's sitting in his chair, and they go, Mr. and Mrs. Holmes, we just want to make you aware of, Mr. Carney's had a bit of a background, with crime and stuff. And so, they go, yeah, he mentioned that he had been in some trouble. They go, trouble? They go, this kid, since from, 15 on, he's been arrested for, armed robbery, attempted murder, guns, drug sales, and blah, blah. They're going down the line. And I go like this. Oh, my God. This is it. I thought I had another shot, and the old man says, he finishes his spiel, and the old man goes, well, you know what? Robbie's been up to visit us before. For Christmas, he spent a week, and he's been here 2 weeks now, and we're just going to judge him from what we know about him. And from what we know about him, our house is his house as long as he wants. And then they look at Graham, the old lady, and she says, no, he's part of our family now. And I have to tell you, my freaking heart swelled when they did that. This is what happened to me there. They trusted me, and I became trustworthy. That's what happened. After I was there 9 months, my parole officer calls and says, I just got a new supervisor, and he looked at your record, and they still have not, switched you over. So you've got 48 hours to get back here, or there's going to be a warrant out for your arrest. And I had to go back. And I had put together about 9 months clean and sober there. I was going to meetings. I had a sponsor. Anyway, I went back to New York. I was going to stay with my aunt for a while. And, I reported to parole, and then I went and got high.
Oh, man, I was so hoping that those two events changed it.
I'm going to tell you. So anyway, from Massachusetts on, it took me another about year of in and out. And finally it clicked. The one thing I tell people in those, I'm pretty sure it was like 18 months from the time I got out of prison until I got sober. I asked my aunt if I could stay with her when I got back to New York, and she said yes. She lived on the concourse in the Bronx, and I grew up 5 blocks from there. So when I got there, I didn't go straight home. I reported, I got high for 2 days, and then I showed up at her house, and I went through most of my money. And so I knew if I don't get to a meeting right away, I'm done. So I called up the hotline, AA hotline, and they sent me to a meeting that was going to start in a half hour. I go there, half my neighborhood is in there that I grew up with as kids. And so, again, I did not stay sober. I was in and out. Maybe I relapsed maybe 2 or 3 more times until finally it clicked. And I say to people, in those 18 months, the only thing I did right was I didn't give up. I relapsed, I picked myself up, I dusted myself off, and I tried again. And I asked myself, what am I going to do different this time? What am I going to do different? And the last time I came in, I asked the man for help. That's what I did different. And he said to me, he made a plan up for me. He said, Robbie, don't drink and drug a day at a time. Make a meeting every day. Get a sponsor that'll take me through the steps. Join a home group, get active in it, and pray your ass off. And I've been doing those things for 33 years.
Seems like, from what you're telling us, New York City is not good for you.
No.
Not at all.
No, it's not good.
Because you kept getting clean. Like,
Yeah.
What a story. Like, you have literally those 20 years from 15 to 35, tragedy, misfortune, like I don't even have words to describe it. You have a whole book to explain it, which is amazing. There's so much more left on the table that we're not going to get to today because we're going to wrap it up. But you're coming back, and we're going to get into more of like the psychology behind it all and more detailed things of how you now help others, how you became an entrepreneur later in life, how you met your wife, who's now the love of your whole world. I want to get into all that stuff, but what a story to share. 20 years and how difficult it must have been to go through the aspect of recovering and falling off, recovering and falling off. And even when people were so nice to you after years of just criminal activity, that you found people in Massachusetts that like cared about you. They didn't see that stuff. They saw the real you, like the
Rehab.
like the rehab center saw you as a child, letting you know that that's who you are. The rest of this is not you.
Right.
And they saw that. And then unfortunately that was taken away from you, brought back to New York City. And then there it went again, back and forth. But like you're saying, the one thing that was different is you asked that one person for help, and it changed everything after 20 years of fighting for it. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing with our community what you've gone through. And everyone, pay attention, because in a couple of months there'll be a couple more episodes with Robbie talking about how to get into AA or NA if you need it, things that you've done to help people, and just general information on how someone can get through and survive no matter how many times you might fall off.
Correct.
You can always get back up. Thank you so much, Robbie.
You're welcome.
What a pleasure.
Welcome.
What a pleasure. You're an amazing human being. Thank you.
Thank you.
For everyone out there, as always, thank you so much for coming back each and every week. We look forward to seeing you here next week, Tuesday at 2 p.m. on the Lyfe Choyces podcast. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You are now about
The Journey, Lyfe Choyces podcast.